What's going on, everyone? My name is Garrett Blackwood. Welcome back to the vlog. Very quick introduction today because I'm hella late. Told you guys it was a quick intro. Let's get straight into it. So this is the first hand of the day. I didn't get the camera on in time. I have 3-bet pre-flop with Queens versus resident podcaster Charlie Hellmuth. He's called. I've checked the flop to check raise. He's checked it on back. Now checking the turn with the intention of check raising, and he just checks it back again. The river is a jack, and I check again to check raise. But again, he just checks it back. This dude is the most aggro reg in all of LA, but I cannot get him to bite, and he just checks it back 3 times. He flashes a wry smile when he sees my queens. He knows what I was up to. He shows me his ace queen of spades. I've won the absolute minimum here. Hopefully this is not a sign of things to come today. Just a few minutes later, I'm in the straddle with queen 4 offsuit. The big blind is called, and I check my option. We go heads up to 7, deuce, deuce, rainbow, swing and a miss for me. So when he checks, I just check it on back. The turn is the king of diamonds, and my opponent now bets $20. I gotta tell you, 4 months later, sitting in my house in London, I've no idea why I decided to call here, but alas, I make the call. The river is the 6 of diamonds. My opponent checks to me, and I now fire $125. Clearly had some devious intentions on the turn, and I have now followed through. My opponent tanks for quite a long time, but he does eventually let it go. Quick spoiler, we're going to bust out a few bottles of red wine later today, but I'm sober as a judge for this one. As a wise man once said, though, it's not spew if it gets through. Moving on now, and let's play some actual poker. I'm on the button with red jacks and raise it on up to $35. I've played with most players that come into this casino and play this game, but this guy in the big blind is a complete unknown player, and he's going to put in the re-raise to $125. If I had a bit more information, I'd consider a 4-bet, but given he's an unknown, I decide to just call. We go heads up to the flop. It is 998 rainbow. Decent start for me here, and when he checks to me, I decide to bet my hand here for $85. My opponent thinks for a few seconds and makes the call. The turn is the queen of spades, bringing a backdoor flush draw. It's also an overcard to my jacks, so when he checks to me, I decide to just play it safe and check it on back. The river is a really annoying ace of spades, second overcard to my jacks. Flush gets there as well, and now my opponent leads out for $225. Given I've got no reads on this guy and the really bad run out here, I think just folding is by far the best option. I do go ahead and let my hand go. This is a small setback in what's been an otherwise decent start to the day. There's just no right way to play these goddamn pocket jacks. It takes 45 minutes before I play my next hand of notes. I'm under the gun with the ace-10 offsuit and raise it on up to $30. A buddy of mine to my left is going to make the call in middle position, and the big blind is going to call as well. We go 3 ways to the flop. It is ace, jack, 9, rainbow. Decent start with top pair here, and I decide to c-bet for $60. Middle position is going to make the call, as is the big blind. We're going to go 3 ways to the turn. Pretty nice turn card here to give me 2 pair. I decide to continue betting. I bet out for $180. Middle position makes the call, but then the big blind folds. Heads up to the river. It's a meaningless offsuit 3. Nothing changes at all, and I think my hand is strong enough to bet for value. I bet again for $425. My opponent immediately tells me he doesn't love it. I know he doesn't have king queen, but then he says I don't know if I can fold. He says if I've turned him dead, it's dirty. I know what's coming now. He eventually makes the call, and he shows me ace jack offsuit when I tell him I've got ace 10. Really, really annoying. I thought the turn card had helped me, but it had actually hindered me and given me a weaker 2 pair, which meant that I was going to lose this pot. I kind of knew I was screwed when he said that on the river. What's worse is I bet the river because I knew he would call ace queen and ace king. So when he says that, I know he's never folding ace jack. Into the red for the day, but what better way to get out of the reds by picking up ace king offsuit in the big blind. The straddle is on here, and the cutoff is raised it on up to $80. I'm going to put in a large 3-bet out of position. I make it $310 to go. Folds back around to the cutoff. He makes the call. We go heads up to the flop. It is 8-6-3 with 2 diamonds. Not the flop I was looking for, but I do still have 2 overs and that backdoor flush draw. So I decide to c-bet my hand for $225, and my opponent instantly moves all in. Now, normally I just snap fold this versus an all in, but it's only about $500 more to call. So I think we kind of have to call here. We've got that backdoor flush draw working for us. We might have the best hand. I think given the price we're being offered, I think we have to just go ahead and call it off. So I do make the call. He's got pocket 10s. I'm going to need a little help here. He wants to go one time. Over to you, dealer.
Yeah, I call it. You win. How much do I own?
Absolutely no help from the dealer there, not even a diamond on the turn for a sweat. Down $2,000 after 2 hours today. Pretty decent hourly for me here. Time to bust out the red wine. Unfortunately, there's no Buckfast on the menu, so I let the other boys at the table choose. It's not bad, not quite as good as Bucky, but it's not bad at all. Back to the poker now. Before I peel out my cards for this next one, you can see exactly who loses the flip for the wine and who has to pay. It's me, of course. When it rains, it pours, and after I pay the man, I look down at Queen Jack offsuit in the middle blind. The button is raised it on up to $60. I'm a little tilted because I had to just pay for the wine, and I lost with that ace king, so I make a bit of a loose call in the middle blind here. We're going to go heads up to the flop. It is 9-8-6 with 2 clubs. I check it on over to my opponent, and he just checks it back. The turn is in offsuit 3, and I decide to start bluffing here. I bet out for $110. My opponent thinks for a few seconds and makes the call. The river is the 9 of clubs, and I decide to keep telling my story. I bet out for $300. No idea what story I'm telling here. Am I repping a straight, a flush, a full house? Probably just repping queen high, to be honest, but no harm done as he does make the fold. It's nice to win a pot. Feels like it's been a minute since I've done so. And next up, I'm in the big blind with ace-6 offsuit. There's a local player by the name of Fred. He raises it on up to $80 from the small blind. He's raised the last like 7 or 8 small blinds in a row, so I'm going to put in a reasonably standard 3-bet bluff here from the big blind. I make it $240 to go. Think of all the better ace-X that he has to fold here versus this 3-bet. After I make it $240 to go, he does make the call. We go heads up to the flop. It is Jack 4 deuce rainbow. Not what I was looking for, but it's a decent enough board for me here, so I decide to c-bet for $160, and my opponent makes the call. The turn is the 6 of clubs to give me second pair. It does bring a backdoor flush draw. My opponent checks me, and this is a little too strong to bluff, too weak to value bet, so I just check it on back. The river is the 7 of clubs. Flush does get there, and what's more, my opponent now leads out for $500. Now, this guy is definitely capable. He can bluff with hands like king queen and ace 3 and ace 5, all these types of hands that he's definitely going to have in his range, so I don't just snap fold, but in the end, I do decide to be disciplined and just let it go. He instantly shows me the 7 of hearts. He was almost certainly bluffing here, but clearly doing it with the best hand. Gotta love that. Down $1,995 for the day here. Feels like one step forward, one step back. I step out for a little break, and first hand after a little break, I missed the start of it, but I've got 5-4 of clubs in the straddle. Under the gun is limped in for $20. Charlie makes it $90 next to act. It falls all the way around to me in the straddle, and I make the call. Under the gun calls as well. We go 3 ways to the flop. It is 10-6-6 with 2 clubs. Under the gun is now going to lead out for $100. Charlie gets out the way, and with my 5 high flush draw, I make the call. The turn is in offsuit 7 to give me an open-ended straight draw to go with that flush draw, and now under the gun is going to bet out for $200. I decide to play my hand here, not my range. I call with the intention of leading out on the river if I get there, but the river is an offsuit king. Can't get anything going today. I checked my opponent. He just checks it back. He's got 10-9 offsuit. This is a classic case of too many outs. Just couldn't get there. And it's another pot going the way of my opponents. Just got to keep grinding it out though. And next up, I'm in the small blind with Jack 10 of spades. The button is raised it on up to $60. I'm going to put in the re-raise. I make it $240 to go. The button makes the call. We go heads up to the flop. Decent enough here. It's 10-6 deuce with 2 hearts. I'm going to c-bet my hand here for about half pot. I bet $250. And the button makes the call. The turn is a very annoying king of hearts. Flush gets there, overcard to my jack 10. So I think for a couple of seconds and just checked my opponent. Happy to see him check it on back. The river is an offsuit ace, another overcard to the board. Really don't love that, but I decide to get real fancy here. This is definitely the red wine coming into play. I bet $100 here into this pot worth $1,000. This is a 10% block bet on the river. I feel like a high stakes MTT pro doing this. Jason Kuhn, eat your heart out. My opponent rage mucks his hands. I probably had the best hand, but maybe he's just folded queen 10. That's probably the only better hand I can make him fold here. Very fancy stuff. Lots of red wine flowing, like I say. And next up, I'm in the cutoff with pocket 10s. The hijack has raised it on up to $60. I'm going to smooth call in the cutoff here. And Charlie is going to put in the squeeze from the small blind to $325. It folds all the way around to me. He's super aggro. He's definitely capable of squeezing really wide here. So I decide to back raise jam for $1,800 with pocket 10s. And he snap calls. He's got pocket kings. This has blown up in my face. We're going to run it twice here. Dealer, find me a 10 ball one time.
That'll do it.
This might look really loose and really aggressive, but it is only 90 big blinds with the straddle. What's actually crazy about this hand is Charlie got stacked 30 minutes ago by playing pocket tens identically to this, calling pre-flop, back raise shoving, and losing to pocket kings. It's kind of spooky. He's won his money back exactly the same way he lost it. Does that mean I'm going to get pocket kings versus pocket 10 soon? Just a few hands later, I'm in the big blind with ace-10 offsuit. Fred is raised again in the small blind to $80. This is the guy I had the ace-6 offsuit versus earlier in the identical situation. And again, I put in the re-raise here. I make it $240 to go. He's going to make the call. And again, we're going heads up to the flop. It is queen, 10, 8 rainbow. A little better for me than the last one. I've actually flopped a pair this time. But this board is a little wetter, a little more connected. So when he checks to me, I decide to just check it on back. The turn is the 3 of clubs, flush draw now possible. And he leads out for $200. I'm not going anywhere just yet. I make the call. The river is an offsuit king. What is with these overcard rivers today? My opponent now checks to me. Kind of happy to see that. I do, of course, just check it on back. He turns over king 10 offsuit. This is a really, really annoying 3-outer to send me down $4,680 for the day. I just can't get anything going today. Lots of nitty-gritty pots like this going against me. It's still a little early though, so I am hopeful of a comeback of sorts. I did manage to win some back in a payload double board bomb pot hand. Here's a fantastic clip of me drilling the case jack on the top board and making a boat on the second board. A nice pot finally coming my way in this PLO hand. Maybe I should just quit No Limit and become a PLO specialist. The dream of an epic 5k Restucco. Unfortunately, it looks very bleak though as the straddle begins to die. I'm suddenly down double the amount of big blinds, so I decide I'm going to head home. Not before one last epic hand though. I'm under the gun with pocket 5s and raise it on up to $30. The cutoff is going to make the call. The middle blind is going to make the call. The middle blind is Fred, the guy I've been battling with all day today. I say, Fred, if you check dark, I will bet dark. He obliges and checks. I bet $65 dark. I'm going home soon. I'm a bit drunk. I'm stuck like 5k. Who the fuck cares? The poker gods are going to reward me with an amazing 5-3 deuce with 2 diamonds flop. The dark bet is out there for $65. Action is on the cutoff and he tank folds his hand. Action is back on Fred now and he's going to put in the raise to $275. Absolutely loving this. What shenanigans we've got in the final hand of the night. Now we're a little deeper here, so I decide to put in the 3 bet. I don't flat call my hand here. I make it $1,050 to go. And then he moves all in for 2k total. I, of course, snap call. I ask if he wants to go once or twice. He's a run it twice kind of guy. So am I. We're going twice here for this pot worth about $4,500. He's got ace-9 of diamonds. Dealer, one time, let me hold twice and recover some of the money I'm down today.
Hi. Is that you?
All right, suck it up.
One time.
Wow. At least you didn't scoop me this time.
Dark bet flop top
How
set.
do you dark bet this flop and this is your hand?
It's a skill game that time.
The boys needling me for running so good by dark betting the flop and flopping a set. Yeah, lads, totally running amazing by chopping it up and being down absolute bags for the day. After this hand, I tap the table and head to the cashier. Actually, only down $3,500 in total. Was down almost 5k at one point, so it's not so bad.
All right, troops, that is the end of this episode. I was down just over 5k at my worst point. Battled back a little bit to be down only 3,500-ish. The straddle died. One guy came over, there was a must move, and he came over and he said he didn't want to straddle, which was completely fine. He actually tried to do the right thing and go back, but because it was a must move, he couldn't. So we just moved the game back down to 5-5-10, and I decided to just quit because all of a sudden I was down double the amount of big blinds. So I just locked up. Small loss, $3,570, which is obviously completely fine. A lot of fun today. Really, really awesome day. I really hope you guys have enjoyed the show. If you could click that sub button, as always, I'd be grateful. Until next time, take it easy.